guess it was about a year ago, I created my first project using guns. And ironically, I was approached by a church. And so I said yes. And I make this gun into a garden tool. That was about a year ago. And then I didn't think too much about it. I thought, you know, side project, maybe I'll get back to that. And right after the Parkland shooting, there was a period of time, I don't know, a couple weeks, and then I get this email from this gentleman. He says, I'm an Iraq vet and I have this AR-15 and I want to make a statement with destroying my gun. He didn't really feel that this was a type of tool that needed to be in regular people's hands. You know, it's a powerful piece of equipment, right? He's like, all right, well, I'll leave this here. And I'm like, okay, we're really gonna do something with this thing. And I'm walking to lunch and my irises start blooming. And there were these like beautiful purple, I mean like deep purplish blue petals, and they just looked like super fragile. And they came from the bulbs from my mom's garden. And I started thinking, she would always say like, beauty will save the world. And I was thinking like, yeah, I could take the barrel of the gun and I could make a flower out of that, you know? And I just sketched something out on the table and made a practice with a piece of regular steel and somehow magically made a bouquet of flowers that came out of the gun. You know, it was like sort of taking it apart and making things, and then like we kind of collectively came up with the idea of attaching it to the butt of the gun, you know what I mean? And having that be a part of it, so it's coming out of it. So that was sort of like the beginning.
Well, it's weird that Parkland came up for you, because I was working a lot in Los Angeles and sold my home here and had bought a home for my mother and started building another home for myself. And time-wise, as construction goes, gets messed up, and I end up staying at the house that I bought for my mom for a few months, not realizing ever that she was someone that watched the news 24 hours a day. It stays on. And suddenly my art completely changed, because you see all of this fear and hatred and anger. And so I did a show that following fall about Alton Sterling and Eric Gardner, and sort of Pulse nightclub, and did almost like tributes to all these things that had occurred in that one run of time. I didn't know how far I would go with it as a career, but like I just knew that I couldn't make any other art but that, because I had no choice. So I did that, did the show, and then right afterwards I had a friend tell me like, well, what are you gonna do next? And then shortly after, Parkland occurred, and I had the idea of buying old vintage school desks to drive home the thought of what politicians should visualize themselves in these desks, and then painting them with chalkboard paint, put them in the march, which I was originally going to do it in DC, and then a friend of mine, Royce Mann, who was part of the March for Our Lives, he organized the Atlanta part of it. So then I kept the desks here. So same as Parkland, I guess, was a pivotal moment for you. That's when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do with my career. Like, I don't want to do decorative art anymore. I want to run down this, lane of trying to influence people's decisions with art, because for me, I realized that at art openings, you can't argue with a piece of artwork. I would see two people that thought completely different things stand in front of a piece of mine and sort of take light little jabs at each other, maybe. Like if you hated guns and someone loved guns, they would feel out the common ground a little bit. And then one would lean one way and push on the other, and then they would sort of laugh. And next thing you know, they're having a conversation, which was really great. And that's when I was like, okay, if I could really do this, I can find a way to get people to think different about some of these laws and hopefully chip away at it a little more.
Most recently, I was brought that Remington rifle that we used. And so throughout that process of working with the Lead to Life people, they introduced me to a young guy in Colorado that has this whole organization that they really are like, they want to create a movement of guns into garden tools. So the Remington rifle came to me from a gentleman that was in, outskirts of Atlanta. But he contacted this organization in Colorado, and I had been communicating with the organization in Colorado and letting them know, like, I'm trying to get a hold of some guns because I'm creating some pieces for an upcoming exhibition. And I really like the concept that you're working with your own version of this buyback program. So I'm now tied in with this organization, and basically what happens is they will connect me to anyone who's in this area, and they'll bring the gun to me. And then what I have to do in an exchange is make them a little garden tool, a little trowel in this case, right? And then I can use the rest of the gun to create with as I see fit. And the organization said, if you sell a piece, we would love it if you'd make some kind of contribution. So for me, like, kind of conceptually or spiritually, while I was working on the AR-15, I was kind of talking to myself, on mic, of course, right? And I'm like, I was trying to get all the plastic parts off and the aluminum parts off, so I had like the barrel of the gun. And all metal gets mined out of the earth. And in some cases, you can think, or certain cultures even think of iron as like the blood of the earth. For me, when I have the gun, it's like, I want to get that piece of metal back to bare metal, back to like its pure form of, iron or steel that's like mined out of the earth. And like, what does it mean to take that same piece of metal and transform it into something else? And what does that mean to set that metal free?
All the weapons I get, I'm buying them all in a time when people feel like their voice is silenced or that they don't have a voice. You can at least sort of reiterate the fact that there is like-minded people in the United States that don't want everyone to be armed, that don't want, everyone to be white, that don't want everyone to be kicked out of the country, and I guess I feel happy even if I get one person to flip a little bit. That doesn't change the world, but at least it makes me feel like my work is doing something in the right arena, and mainly, you want to feel like as an artist that you're having some type of leaning on society a little bit. You don't have to tip them, but you can just lean a little bit.
For me, with the work that I've been creating with guns, it's really, I guess, on a couple of levels, but maybe like sparking an awareness and to challenge the perception that we have of what's possible. Because with a little heat, a little force, a little imagination, what's to say we couldn't transform anything?